I wanted to talk to you about chapter 3, which is philosophy, and particularly I wanted to talk to you about the nomos physis debate, because it's one of my favourites. Nomos is a man-made law, and physis is a sort of natural law. So a good example to illustrate them is, if you were driving up a coast road, and you came to the end of that road and there was a stop sign, and you didn't need to stop because there was no traffic coming, but you stopped anyway because you're the law-abiding sort, that's nomos. You're obeying nomos, a man-made law. It says stop, you stop. That's just the kind of person you are. If just behind that stop sign is a cliff, and if you went past it, you would therefore fall over there, well, that would be gravity, kind of physis. That's a natural law. You can't argue with it, unless you are Wile E. Coyote, when you can run over the edge of a cliff and keep running bafflingly for a few seconds before you realise and then fall. You cannot argue with gravity. And this may sound like a really simple kind of ivory tower philosophy type distinction, but it really isn't. And the best example of this, my favourite by far, is the Melian dialogue back in Thucydides. This is the kind of thing he was researching while he was exiled. And the Melians were neutral. They are Switzerland in the Peloponnesian War, if you like. And they managed to be Switzerland for ages. And then the Athenians get cross about them being Switzerland and decide that they want to pick them as allies. So they go, they send ambassadors to Melos, and they say, okay, Melians, time to be on our side. And the Melians go, no thanks, we don't fancy it. And the Athenians go, sorry, when I framed that as a question, it was like when a teacher says, would you like to do your homework? And what I meant was, do it right now, be our ally. And the Melians said, no thank you, we don't fancy it. And the Athenians said, do you know what, Might is right. We're bigger than you, either join us or we will destroy you. We have the power, and you and I both know that if you've got the power, you should use it. That's physis, there, right there. If you're stronger than the other person, it's absolutely fair enough. That's how lions work, right? They don't reason with a wildebeest. They're stronger than a wildebeest. They take the wildebeest down, they eat the wildebeest. That's the law of the jungle. There it is right there. Law of the Serengeti, maybe. So, you know, bad luck, wildebeest, bad luck, Melos, that's you done. The Melians try to reply with nomos. They say, just because you can doesn't mean you shouldn't. Might isn't always right, actually. The nomos is important. You should respect other people's decisions. Neutrality is a really, valuable institution. But also, they go for an altruism suggestion. They say, if you crush your enemies now, when you are incredibly powerful, you won't always be powerful. Eventually, you will be weak. And then imagine how vengeful people will be against you because you behaved so badly when you were powerful. And the Athenians go, yes or no, and the Melians go, no. The Athenians kill all the men and they enslave all the women and children. They repopulate Melos with Athenian colonists. In other words, they commit a perfect act of island-specific genocide using the nomos physis debate to back up their answers. I think it's a really interesting point that we've become very, it seems to me, anti-philosophy at a time where various universities run the risk of seeing their philosophy departments disappear. We should remember, I think, that philosophy isn't just for people sitting and thinking about shapes and ideas, that actually it has incredible practical consequences, and reading them and remembering them, it kind of informs the way that we live our lives every day. If nothing else, how many times has a drunk person told you their philosophy in a pub? I'll tell you how many. Many.